Go ahead.
Okay, great. Everybody, we're live on YouTube now. Good evening. Today is Monday, November 23rd, 2020. Welcome to this evening's virtual regular meeting of the Oregon City Council. Let's begin tonight's meeting by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
Indivisible,
with liberty
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Evans, would you please take roll call of council for attendance this evening? And you'll have to turn on your mics now.
Yep, everybody's gonna have to unmute now. Mr. Davish,
Here.
Mr. Horniak,
here,
Mrs. Pollock,
Here.
Mr. Reeves,
Here.
Mr. Seaman,
Here.
Mr. Wallensack,
Here.
Mr. Zale,
here.
Thank you. Please note that all members of council are present this evening. Also joining us, our clerk of council, Ms. Tina Evans, Mayor Michael Safarian, City Administrator, Mr. Michael Beasley, Law Director, Melissa Purpura, our Public Service Director, Mr. Paul Roman, our Information Technology Director, Karis Dykma, our Assistant Fire Chief, Mark Mullins, our Training Chief, Mr. Jim Wolf, our Police Chief, Mr. Michael Navarre, and our newly appointed Police Chief, Mr. Brandon Beacon, are joining us.
Darlene.
Oh, I didn't see Darlene. Okay. And
She's out
our
there.
Finance Director, Darlene Huntermark. I'm sorry about that, Darlene. Council, the first order of business would be the approval of the meeting minutes from the November 9th, 2020 regular meeting of council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Seaman.
I move that we accept the minutes from the regular November 9th council meeting as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Davish. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, the meeting minutes from the November 9th, 2020 regular meeting of council are approved as submitted. Council, we did not have a committee of the whole meeting last week. Therefore, we will need to add items 112 through 121 of 2020 to this evening's agenda. Can I get a motion, please?
Mr. President,
Mr. Seaman.
I move that we add the items 100 and
12
number?
through 121.
112 to 121.
through 121
Thank you,
as
Mr.
presented.
Seaman. Thank you. Second by Mr. Reeves. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, items 112 through 121 of 2020 will be added to this evening's agenda. Council, we are going to start with item number 121. With item number 121 that's being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian, we do have Mr. Tim Schneider of the Regional Chamber of Commerce here joining us. So I'm going to send it over to the mayor, and then the mayor, you can send it over to Tim after you're done.
Yes, I just gotta find this thing here.
A
Okay,
large agenda, a lot of stuff in it tonight.
Yeah, it's the very last one.
yeah, they got resolution. Yes, and we do this annually, and we're prepared to do it again this year, and he's here to speak on it, so you can go right to him, Mr. President.
Mr. Schneider.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. We also have another guest that was supposed to join. I don't see him on the Zoom portal here. So I guess I'll just go ahead and go into my remarks. So thank you, Oregon City Council and Mayor Safarian. The Toledo Regional Chamber of Commerce thanks each of you for recognizing our small businesses and acknowledging November 28th as Small Business Saturday. Small Business Saturday was founded in 2010 as an annual shopping tradition dedicated to supporting small businesses and communities across the nation. This occasion has added importance this year, considering the significant challenges that small businesses, both nationally and within our own region, have endured due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Chamber is seeing the impacts of this unprecedented situation on our small businesses firsthand. For example, We've recently partnered with the Lucas County Commissioners to administer a $2 million small business stabilization grant program, through which we received more than 400 applications and nearly $7 million in requests for funds in only 1 week's time. Of those small businesses so far approved for funding through the grant program, about 80% are employers of 20 or fewer employees, and 50% are women, minority, or veteran-owned, and 15% are nonprofit organizations. Also, our Small Business Development Center, which provides no-cost consulting services to area small businesses, has since March helped more than 600 small businesses navigate through the various assistance programs and health orders. The Chamber understands how important small businesses are to our local economy. There are about 50,000 small businesses in our region, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, and about 80% of the Chamber's membership are small businesses. We encourage you to direct any small businesses in need of assistance to the Chamber or any of our other community partners. We thank you for your support of our local small businesses and appreciate your recognition of November 28th as Small Business Saturday. We did invite Oregon small business owner Ray Zammit of Complete Laundering Services to join with us today. Ray, are you on by chance?
Excuse me, Ray, you need to unmute yourself.
There I am. I'm on. I got it.
So Ray, yeah, we'd like to invite you to say a few words if you'd like.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, guys. I see some people I recognize. Hi, Bear. So, we own Complete Laundering Services. We're an industrial laundry business. We specialize in the industrial laundry of personal protective equipment, primarily factory gloves. We secured the business from Donna Reineke back in 2004. We've been fairly successful over the past couple of years. It's been fun. I joined the Chamber in 2008. At that time, as you'll recall, there was a nice recession going on, and quite frankly, our business was in financial trouble. I just heard Tim refer to the Small Business Advisory Group. Those people are responsible for me still sitting here today. I don't think our business would have survived the recession without the help of the Chamber. And they have been a big part of our business ever since then. We still have retained several members of that business roundtable group on our financial board, and we meet quarterly. So they've been a very positive and influential service for our business. Because of my exposure with these people, I eventually joined the TASMA board, which is the Toledo Area Small Business Association. I've been on that board for 3 years. And from that board, I was requested to join the Levy Review Committee. I'm also on the County Infrastructure Review Committee. So it's been a very positive experience for myself to get involved with the community and see all the nice things that we're trying to do to make things better for the small business people. Tim asked me to talk a little bit about the COVID challenges. I have no idea where to begin. We started off the year like a bat out of hell, I guess the best way to describe it. We were really doing well. Then all of a sudden, it all dried up. They shut everything down, and we had about an 85 to 90% decrease in revenue per week almost immediately. We were deemed essential services. We stayed open, but at those low revenue levels, it was difficult to maintain things in the short term. Luckily, our government found some PPP money for us. We secured that loan rather quickly. We also qualified for the EDIL grant, which was another $10,000. We got with our bank. And they actually gave us a 3-month grace period on our mortgage payments and tacked those on the back end of our loan. So we had some help getting through all this. And I would say right around May, 1st of June, things started creeping back up. We're about 85% of where we should be right now. There are some nice business opportunities on the horizon for us. Unfortunately, there are some of my competitors who are not going to make it through this pandemic. I think we're going to make it, and we have some plans looking forward to some new business and possibly a new location somewhere here in Northwest Ohio. So one last thing I want to mention is that about 2-3 weeks ago, I was at a TASMA board meeting. We became aware of the, Tim, you can help me out here. This a county CARES grant that we qualified for?
Yeah, so it was funding via the Federal CARES Act money that was allocated through the state of Ohio and therefore then to Lucas County. And
Right.
so we were able to partner with Lucas County on designating $2 million of that funding for small business relief. And that's and the chamber has administered that program.
Yeah, and we just got our money last week, and kind of pitch it to kind of give you a perspective. We qualified for $10,000. That's 3 months mortgage payments for our company. So that is a lot of cash for a small business, and takes a lot of pressure off our weekly and financial reviews. So I'm looking forward to this year being over. And I'm looking forward to next year. Hopefully things will be back to normal, or a new normal anyway. But that's our story. And we're proud to be part of the Oregon City. Our employees are all East Side or Oregon people. We try to do business locally with just about everybody out there. So it's been a great experience for us. And we look to continue that positive working relationship with the city of Oregon.
Thank you. Dennis?
Yes, Mr. Beasley.
I was just gonna I want to echo Ray's comment about the value of the Chamber's small business task force and team they can put together. As you as elected officials talk to small businesses that are facing challenges, they bring so much talent to bear in real time to get you an outside look at your books, the way you're organizing your shop. It gets you some ideas. I know it's important to businesses going through hard times. We want to make sure we get them the help that they can, the best help they can get. And that chamber program is great. I talk to those folks regularly, and I've referred folks there. As you talk to small businesses, it's a great resource. And Ray talked about how important was him coming out of the last recession. Just makes you a great connection and another way of looking at things, that sometimes as small businesses, you're really good at making widgets, but balancing the books is a little harder for you.
That's exactly right, Mike. I think that small business group, I think there's probably maybe 8 to 10 of us who wouldn't have made it through the recession without that small business group. And I'll throw out a couple of names. I think Bill Wursel and Charlie Chambers, they did a hell of a job for us. There's a couple other individuals that were involved. I don't think they're not with the chamber any longer, but we still use them as a resource. My background is chemistry and biology. I'm not a financial guy. And when we got in financial trouble, they came in there and hit me over the head with a 2x4 and got everything. I mean, literally hit me over the head with a 2x4. And we got things straightened out pretty quick. And we've been on this financially. We've been on a very, very strict. I guess I have a lot of people looking over my shoulder, making sure we're handling the books correctly.
That's great.
Ray, thank you so much for joining us. And Tim, thank you for joining us this evening, telling us your stories and how the chamber can help local small businesses. We do appreciate you guys spending your time speaking with us today.
Oh, thank you.
Council, does anybody have any questions for Ray or Tim?
Mr. President.
Yeah, Mr. Seaman.
Yeah, it's very encouraging to see the support that the chamber has been given to our small business people. But I'm concerned that as time goes on and this COVID doesn't let up, I mean, we may see many people close their doors, as Ray indicated, permanently. I'm just hoping that we can get some input at the federal level to re-expand some of the federal CARES Act, because I think it's very timely that they get that support, and I think that they can survive as long as they get the support at the right time. And I think now is the right time. So I'm hoping that for a quick transition and some support for our small business people here in Oregon and Northwestern Ohio. Thank you.
Yeah, Councilman Seaman, we are, monitoring the gridlock situation in Congress. And frankly, we've had the federal programs that have expired, the small business programs that have expired. We're looking at other economic programs that will expire at the end of the year. And so you're right. And as I mentioned, the response we got to our small business stabilization grant program that we're partnering with Lucas County on, we had $2 million to allocate. We got $7 million in requests in 1 week's time.
Yeah.
And had to close the portal down after only a week. So we have businesses in need in the pipeline already, should additional support become available.
So we can cross our fingers and hope for the best.
They will act.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you again, Tim. Council, is there any further questions for Tim and Ray? Hearing no further questions, I will assign item number 121 of 2020 with resolution number 121 of 2020 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
A resolution recognizing November 28th, 2020 as Small Business Saturday and supporting awareness of the value of our small businesses and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I move for passage of resolution 121 of 2020 as emergency.
Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Davish. Second by Mr. Zale. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of resolution number 121 of 2020 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Davish,
Yes.
Mr. Zale,
Yes.
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mrs. Pawliff,
yes,
Mr. Reeves,
Yes.
Mr. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack.
Yes. Thank you, council. Please note that resolution number 121 of 2020 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. I think at this time, Mr. Schneider and Ray are going to leave us. But thank you so much for joining us this evening and telling us your story.
Thank you.
You guys have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Thanks,
Okay, council, we're going to move to item number 112 of 2020. Item 112 is being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Police Chief Mr. Michael Navarre. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. And council, you'll see this is the police vehicle maintenance contract. Chief Navarre is here to give you details on the contract with this new provider. And so you could go to Chief Navarre to see how he wants to present this.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mayor.
Mayor.
Navarre.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. President. This is the maintenance agreement for the police vehicles. Currently, the bid contract is with Bauman Ford, formerly Matthews Ford. And for calendar year 2021, it was necessary to go out for rebid. It was hand delivered to 6 of the area vendors in Oregon. 3 of them were returned. That was AAA, formerly Dan-R's, Bauman's Ford, and Bell Tire. We did not receive anything back from Dunn's, Tire Man, or from Tri-County. So we looked at the 3 bids that were submitted, and it is our recommendation that the lowest bid would be for AAA, formerly Dan-R's. We believe that to be the best because they are cheaper on the most commonly repaired and replaced items for the Ford SUV, and that's what the majority of the work that is done is on those marked vehicles, the SUVs. And that's tires, batteries, oil changes, radiator service, air conditioning service, transmission service, and windshield wipers. Considerably cheaper in most of those categories. They're very close to Bell Tire on the front brakes. And they're also less expensive on tires, brakes, and oil changes with the Chevy Tahoe. So the police division is recommending that for calendar year 2021, that we give the maintenance agreement to AAA. And they would also be given, part of the bid was an option to renew for 2022. I
Thank
can
you.
answer the questions.
Thank you, Chief Navarre. Council, is there any questions for the administration or Chief Navarre on item number 112?
Mr. President,
Yeah, Mr. Zale.
I did review those, of course, and I thought their race looked very, very good. When they took over this business, is it a complete employee changeover for the business or just a name change where a lot of employees stayed? Because I'm not familiar with AAA. It's like, I would assume that it works good. I don't know.
Well, AAA, I do know, took over a lot of businesses in this area. Back where I take my personal car to Schmitty's in Sylvania, that is now AAA, as the other Schmitty's in West Toledo. And I believe that they have taken over several businesses in this area. I do not believe there were any employee changes.
Okay, the only reason I ask, I'm not familiar with them. You know, I know they moved in there, but that's fine. But the rates look really good.
Thank you, Mr. Zale. Council, is there any further questions on item number 112? Hearing no further questions, I'll sign item number 112 with ordinance number 112 of 2020 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Authorizing the mayor and finance director to issue purchase orders to AAA Tire and Auto Service, 4041 Navarre Avenue, Oregon, Ohio, to provide fleet maintenance services for the police division for a 1-year period of January 1, 2021 through December 31, 2021, with an optional second year through December 31, 2022.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Zale.
I move for passage of ordinance 112, 2020.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Polloff. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 112 of 2020?
Mr. Zale,
Yes.
Mrs. Polloff,
Yes.
Mr. Davish,
yes,
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
yes,
Mr. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack,
Yes. Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance number 112 of 2020 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. We'll move to item number 113. Item number 113 is being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Police Chief Mr. Michael Navarre. Mayor.
Which one is this? Mine aren't numbered.
This is the dispatch services with Drewson Township.
Right, I get, that's 113. Okay, this is an annual thing. Chief Barr can tell any differences that we might have had since the last contract. But I believe it's relatively similar to everything we've had in the past.
Yes, that is correct, Mayor. The dollar amount is identical to 2020. There's no change for 2021. And this is also on the calendar year.
Thank you, Chief Navarre, and thank you, Mayor. Council, is there any questions for the administration on item 113?
Mr. President.
Mr. Zale.
Yeah, Chief, do we have any idea
just got the headers in it.
how long it'll be before we actually make the switch over to 911 where we will no longer provide the service for them?
Well, I've been attending most of the meetings by Zoom, and complete changeover is expected to occur by the end of next year. It's not going to all happen at the same time.
Right.
In fact, the last plan is they were saying that they were going to move fire over first. So it's very possible that these calls, this dispatching that we're doing for Jerusalem Township will stop probably sometime in the third quarter of next year is my best guess. And then for the police agencies, they're going to do one at a time. They're not going to do them all like on December 31st, switch everything on January 1st. They're going to do some of the smaller PSAPs first, maybe Maumee or Sylvania, maybe Oregon. But I do expect that all the fire service in Lucas County will occur before any of the police agencies. And I think everything is going to occur in the fourth quarter of next year. You might see fire late in the third quarter of next year, but right now they're on track to have this all done before December 31st of 2021.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zale. Council, any further questions on item number 113? Here no questions, I will sign item number 113 with ordinance number 113 in 2020 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Authorizing the mayor and finance director to execute a contract with the Jerusalem Township trustees for the fire and rescue squad dispatching services at a cost of $11,709.30 for the period of January 1, 2021 through December 31, 2021.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Zale.
I move for passage of ordinance 113, 2020.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Polliff. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 113 of 2020?
Mr. Zale,
Yes.
Mrs. Polliff,
Yes.
Mr. Davish,
yes,
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
yes,
Mr. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack,
Yes. Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance 113 of 2020 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. We'll move to item number 114 of 2020. Item 114 is again being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Police Chief Mr. Michael Navarre. Mayor?
It's fairly straightforward. It's our Norris contract for the police department. Once again, Chief Navarre can tell you if there's any changes from previous years.
The dollar amount did increase by $1,315. I do know that 416 of that was the purchase 2 scanners that we had requested and that are currently using. Norris provides our information services, our records management, and they provide our connectivity to the state and national databases, which our officers have to use on a daily basis for warrants checks, criminal histories, and driver's license checks. It's a good relationship. I think the increase is minor compared to the amount of service that they provide. The total dollar amount for the contract for calendar year 2021 is $32,400. Again, it's an increase of $1,315 over the current year.
Thank you, Chief Navarre. Council, is there any questions on item number 114? Hearing no questions, I will assign item number 114 with ordinance number 114 of 2020 and ask Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
authorizing the mayor and finance director to enter into an agreement with the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, One Government Center, Suite 1720, Toledo, Ohio, to provide criminal justice information service through the Northwest Ohio Regional Information Systems and records management support for the police division for the period of January 1, 2021 through December 31, 2021.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Zale.
I move for passage of ordinance 114, 2020.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Polliff. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 114 of 2020?
Mr. Sale,
Yes.
Mrs. Polliff,
Yes.
Mr. Davish,
yes,
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
yes,
Mr. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack,
Yes. Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance 114 of 2020 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. Move to item number 115. Item 115 is being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Public Service Director, Mr. Paul Roman. Mayor.
And council, I think you're all aware of the Coy Navarre State Route 2 improvement project on the corner. Property needed for the improvement. Mr. Roman can give you details or answer questions, but I think this is something everybody's aware of.
Mr. Roman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mayor. And as the mayor said, it's for the Coy Navarre project. The two properties involved is Rite Aid on the southwest corner and then St. Paul's Church on the northeast. And the costs are included. There's a breakdown in Exhibit A with the descriptions, but a lot of the St. Paul's project is for a turn lane. And then there's some work with the Coy Bridge over Amlosh Ditch, which is going to get replaced as a part of this project. So it's a higher cost, definitely more land involved. But that's it. Happy to answer any questions.
So, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Beasley.
I was just going to make a note. It does give you a real sense of how much work we get to provide for lawyers and engineers when you look at all the attachments and all the detail associated with just moving a sidewalk around and a couple of things. I mean, it's important work and it's necessary, but it just shows you Paul's shop does a lot of hoop jumping to get these things done. It doesn't just happen.
Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. Roman.
Well, one thing is we do have a grant for this project, and safety grant through ODOT, and it'll pay close to 70% of the right of way, just so you know.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Roman. Council, are there any questions for the administration on item 115? Hearing no questions, I'll assign item 115 with ordinance number 115 of 2020 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Authorizing the mayor, finance director, and director of public service to enter into agreements with R.W. Rad Navarre LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, and St. Paul's Episcopal Church for the acquisition of temporary easements and a portion of property for the LUC State Route 2 22.51 Navarre and Coy intersection project, PID 109596, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I move for passage of ordinance number 115 of 2020 as an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
second,
Second by Ms. Pauloff. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 115 of 2020 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Davish,
Yes.
Mrs. Pauloff,
yes,
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
yes,
Mr. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzek,
Yes.
Mr. Zale,
Yes.
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance 115 of 2020 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. Item 116 of 2020 is again being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Public Service Director, Mr. Paul Roman. Mayor.
This is a sidewalk. I'd like to say Mr. Roman could give the details on the necessity for this.
Roman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mayor. Well, it says 2020 sidewalk program, but it also includes concrete work at the wastewater plant. And a lot of the sidewalk work that we have is sometimes when the trees uproot the sidewalk and we take on those costs versus the property owner. So it's in various locations, but it's all explained in Exhibit A. And this work, it's at the very end of the year, but it'll take probably a week to perform. It'll actually go pretty quick. And obviously we want good weather to do that, but we do it every year. And like this year, we have additional work at the wastewater plant. And we do have funds from wastewater that pays for their share. So it was included in the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Councilor, any questions for the administration on item number 116? Hearing no questions, I'll sign item 116 with ordinance number 116 of 2020 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
accepting the bid of Smith Paving and Excavating Incorporated, 4426 North Old State Road, Norwalk, Ohio, for furnishing labor, materials, and equipment for the 2020 sidewalk program and miscellaneous concrete work project, authorizing the mayor, director of public service, and finance director to enter into a contract with said contractor and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council,
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I move for passage of ordinance 116 of 2020 as emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
second,
Second by Ms. Polliff. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 116 of 2020 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Davish,
Yes.
Mrs. Polliff,
yes,
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
yes,
Mr. Seaman,
yes,
Mr. Wallensack,
Yes.
Mr. Zale,
Yes.
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance number 116 of 2020 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. Item number 117 is being presented by Mayor Michael J. Sperry and Public Service Director, Mr. Paul Roman. And Mayor, do you want me to go directly to Mr. Roman on the stop signs?
I'll start with this.
Okay.
Then Mr. Roman to follow up with it. And I know a little bit about this. I live right down the street, one house away from one of the stop signs. And Rodney Schultz had originally spoke to me about the traffic problem, people complaining. There is no stop sign coming off of Grand Bay onto Eagles Landing. There's cars that park there. It creates a little bit of uncertainty, and I know some people are nervous about it. I also believe next year probably or into 2021 sometimes Eagles Landing Stadium Road and Eagles Landing Wynn Road will connect, and the flow through traffic will become, I'm guessing, quite a bit more intense. So these were things that ought to be addressed before some of those improvements happen to try to eliminate dangerous situations. Mr. Roman, I'm sure has more details than I have. I don't want to get too wordy on it, but just adding a few stop signs.
Roman.
Yeah, and like the mayor said, the thing about Grand Bay Drive, that's a Plat 1. The stop sign's warranted, but a lot of times when the designer designs these roads, it's as if everything's going in all at one time. And like the mayor mentioned, Plat 4, which is off of Stadium, will be connected to Plat 1. The Jacobs Drive stop sign is already in place. It just needs to be codified. And really a lot of this ordinance is really just cleanup. And then the villas of Park Alande, which come off of Pickle Road. We need a stop sign there, which is typical for any subdivision that goes out to a main road. And so that's all it is. It's really just clean up to cover those stop signs.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Council, is there any questions for the administration on item number 117? Hearing no questions, I'll assign item 117 with ordinance number 117 of 2020 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans?
An ordinance amending Schedule 7 of Part 3 of the Traffic Code of the Codified Ordinances of Oregon, Ohio to provide a stop sign for various streets in Eagles Landing subdivision and the villas at Park Alande, Plat 1 in the city of Oregon, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President.
Mr. Davish?
Mr. Zale to us, wants to say
Mr.
something?
Zale?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Mr. Zale?
I move for passage of ordinance 117-2020 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davish.
It's kind of hard to hear people sometimes.
Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 117 of 2020 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Zale,
Yes.
Mr. Davish,
Yes.
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mrs. Polliff,
yes,
Mr. Reeves,
yes,
Mr. Seaman,
yes,
Mr. Wallensack,
Yes. Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance number 117 of 2020 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. We'll move to item number 118 of 2020. Item number 118 is being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Finance Director, Ms. Darlene Huntermark. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President and Council. This installation of these street lights is for the new subdivision that runs between Park Alande, one of the roads in Park Alande, to Pickle Road, and it's a requirement for those new subdivisions to be lit and this achieves just that, to light the subdivision, and it is assessed to the benefited property owners. Anything else, I'm sure either Darlene or myself could answer questions you may have, if there is any.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, is there any questions for the administration on item number 118 of 2020? Hearing no questions, I'll sign item 118 with ordinance number 118 of 2020 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Authorizing the Toledo Edison Company to install 750-watt LED Acorn post-top style luminaries on fiberglass poles with underground supply located in the villas at Park Galante, providing for the assessment to benefited property owners and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I move for passage of ordinance 118 of 2020 as an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
second,
Second by Ms. Polliff. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 118 of 2020 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Davish,
Yes.
Mrs. Polliff,
yes,
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
yes,
Mr. Seaman,
yes,
Mr. Wallensack,
Yes.
Mr. Zale.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance 118 of 2020 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. We'll move to item 119 of 2020, being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Finance Director, Ms. Darlene Huntermark. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. But we got Darlene on Zoom here today, especially for this. I could probably answer all with graphic details, but just want to hear from her.
Darlene, would you like to join us this evening? You're going to have to unmute yourself, Darlene.
Okay, I think I've got it. Thank you, Mr. President. As we begin the process of closing fiscal year 2020, we're looking at various accounts that need supplemental appropriations. So attached to this ordinance, we have a list of 6 funds that require some attention at this time. And we'll continue to look through our last council meetings for the rest of the year to see if anything else needs to be addressed.
There you go, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Beasley.
Just to note, probably the biggest one on there is, you see, police overtime is something that gets attention. It's one thing to note the way we budget for police overtime. It may seem like a long time ago, but back early in the year, pre-COVID, we had a fairly good sized turnaround that had begun at Toledo Refinery. And if members recall how that works, we don't necessarily budget for that overtime, but we, the entities, especially the 2 refineries, but other entities as well, essentially have a de facto contract with the police department, and that money passes through us. We incur a lot of overtime for that, but we also collect revenue for that money as well. It's a dollar for dollar expense. We do have some real, though, police overtime that is greater than some of us would have liked, as we've had COVID challenges, a much larger share of on-the-job injuries than most years. Nothing horribly serious, but a lot of folks on light duty. It's just led to a little more overtime. I don't know if Mike wants to comment on that, but that's kind of the biggest item out there. In general, for the year, we're going to end up spending about $3 million less than we budgeted to spend in the general fund. But you move dollars around and you go from there as you take it. As you spend money in one category, you don't in another. But we're going to underspend by about $3 million this year. We think it's always a roll. We wait and get to the end of the year. Last month expenses are something of a bunch of swing the last few weeks of the year as we do close out. But we're looking in that general direction, just as an heads up as we go prepare for the budget. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. Council, is there any questions for the administration on item 119? Hearing no question. Ms. Polliff, did you have anything?
no, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I just had never mind.
All right. Hearing no questions, I'll sign item number 119 of 2020 with ordinance number 119 of 2020 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Authorizing and directing the finance director to make supplemental appropriations in interfund and interfund transfers on an as-needed basis for fiscal year 2020 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President?
Mr. Seaman.
Yes, I'd like to move for passage of ordinance 119 of 2020 as an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davish. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 119 of 2020 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Davish,
Yes.
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mrs. Pollock,
yes,
Mr. Reeves,
yes,
Mr. Wallenzeck,
Yes.
Mr. Zale,
Yes.
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance 119 of 2020 passed by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. Move to, which will be the last item this evening, item number 120, being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Fire Chief Mr. Denny Hartman. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. These are radios for the fire department that were budgeted for. Chief Hartman could give you details about them and where we stand with radio purchases.
Well, we don't have Mr. Hartman here today, but we'll
Yeah.
go to Mark Mullins.
Yeah.
Assistant
Yeah.
Chief Mullins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. President, these are some of our older portable radios, excuse me, that are just going to fall by the wayside because they're not going to be able to be repaired any longer. These were purchased approximately 3 fire chiefs ago, and we've made these last as long as we can make them last. The purchase of these radios actually come with a cost savings of $19,200 because they are on a state-funded fire marshal's grant. So you have the paperwork in front of you. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you,
Mr.
Chief Mullins. Mr. Beasley.
Just as a note, the members recalls we've gone through the budget. We budgeted to replace a certain portion of our radios each year over a 3-year period. This is part of that process that we discussed, and we're rolling through it. This is the part of the original 35 megahertz package left over. Is that the group that's there?
These are the 800 megahertz and
800.
yeah,
800
megahertz.
I was
And
part of the county group that put this in
that's
a long
correct.
time ago, at least 3 fire chiefs ago. I remember working with some relative of Dennis's on it when we apportioned it out between the jurisdictions.
That's absolutely correct.
Excellent. Well, thank you, guys. Council, is there any questions for the administration on item 120?
Mr. President,
Yeah, Mr. Zale.
is this the first round of our replacements? I don't recall.
This is actually our second round of replacements for these. We purchased about a dozen of these about 3 years ago. So we did budget these to be in there for the last 3 years. We just had other things that came up that are a little bit more important. And at this time, we just can't wait any longer.
Yeah, okay. Do we plan on doing this again next year?
We're going to look and see what the fire department looks like, after contract negotiations, and
Right.
we'll take a
Makes
a good look at that time, and hopefully we won't need as many.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Zale. Councilors, any further questions on item number 120? Hearing no questions, I'll sign item number 120 with ordinance number 120 of 2020 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
awarding a contract and authorizing the mayor and finance director to issue a purchase order for the purchase of 12 APX 6000 700 800 model 2.5 800 megahertz portable radios and accessories for the Oregon Fire Division to P&R Communication Service Incorporated, 4910 Onescape Drive, Oregon, Ohio, in the amount of $46,723.40 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Zale.
I move for passage of ordinance 120, 2020 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
second,
Second by Ms. Pollock. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 120 of 2020 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Zale,
Yes.
Mrs. Pollock,
yes,
Mr. Davish,
Yes.
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
yes,
Mr. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck.
Yes. Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance 120 of 2020 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. That concludes the items for consideration and passage this evening, and we will move to the mayor's report. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. And have a couple personnel changes from within the city of Oregon. First, from the engineering department, the resignation of Michael Lee, effective Friday, November 20th. He'd be moving on with his career objectives, and I'd ask council to concur with those wishes.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
President.
Yes, we have to start concurring with this. Who wants to make a motion? I guess,
Not my
Mayor,
department.
get him back, Mayor. Get him back. Nobody's gonna concur.
We'll lock him in, Mr. Roman department, and he just won't be allowed to leave.
He's
I guess not.
finishing up his internship. We got to let him escape so he can graduate from engineering school.
Thank you.
Mr.
Mr. President,
With the mayor's appointment.
Can you hear me, Mr. President?
Mr. President,
Mr. Zale.
I will concur with the mayor.
Ms.
Kathy,
Powell?
couldn't hear you.
I didn't, did you hear when I,
No, I wasn't here. I didn't hear it. That's why I kept on saying crickets.
oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna second it since Tim.
All right. All right. Thank you. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor, Council concurs.
And then next, from Karis Dykma, she also wishes to resign her position as effective December 4th, 2020. And I would ask council to concur with that request.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Mr. President? Mr. President?
Kathy was in first. Kathy?
I move to concur with the mayor's acceptance of the resignation of Eric Stikeman.
Thank you, Ms. Pauloff.
Second?
Second by Mr. Seaman. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor, Council concurs with the acceptance of the resignation of Karis Dykma.
And then the last thing is, Mr. President, and for some of the things we have to do administratively, for us, next month's regular council meetings, and I know that they would normally be the 14th and 28th falling right in the middle of Christmas. For us, actually, if you would change them, or if council would agree to do, the 7th and the 21st would be probably our most desirable request for council meetings next month. So if in your report, if you would consider that request, we would appreciate that. Other than that, I would conclude my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Beasley.
Just a couple of notes. I guess probably just be aware on COVID that has been a subject of some considerable discussion across the state. We have had some challenges here in some of our shops right now. We've got some positives in several departments, and we're just trying to be mindful of it. We're monitoring the best way we can make sure we maintain services. We're talking to other communities. We're looking at some of the same challenges. We had a new positive confirmation today in one of our shops, in one of the offices, and we're just going to be respectful of their privacy, but just aware of the challenge that makes for other folks in the department. So we're exploring our options, looking at shift changes, looking at the possibility that we close the offices to the public again, and kind of consistent with the governor's request for a couple of weeks, have the offices open and available, but have it by appointment only. It seemed to work well the last time we did it, but that's kind of a path we're looking at, perhaps for the week after Thanksgiving, just to protect follow consistent with the governor's request that we do as much as we can to lock down. We're not going to close our offices. We're still going to be here, but folks, we come in by appointment only. That's kind of the direction we're looking at right now, beginning after Thanksgiving. We're again looking at schedulings and that sort of thing as we go. We want to make sure we can maintain services for our residents. We don't have a lot of backup in some of our shops in a city our size, and if a couple of people go out, we end up with challenges. We've got people out in fire, we got people out in police, we got people out in the parts of the office, we push the money around and take care of payroll and things like that. And we're very mindful of those challenges. So we'll be talking to the members as we go through. A couple other things going on. We are, as we've discussed over a couple of years now, looking to move forward on 2 significant projects. We've talked about a fire station for a number of years, and we talked to members of council about this over I think last year's budget time and 2 years ago's budget time. We don't think there'll ever be a better time to issue municipal bonds. The interest rates are the lowest they've ever been in my long career. And all the advice we're getting is now is the best time to go long. We have 2 projects we're looking to do. We're looking at a fire station investment, and we're looking at an investment in roadway infrastructure. The last major debt we issued was for Big Ditch and for Wheeling Street widening. That was about 10 years ago. We would also look to refinance that debt. The interest rates were low 10 years ago, but they're low enough now that we come out ahead refinancing that debt between now and when we pay that off. So we'll have a savings on that. So we would issue debt for essentially 3 purposes. And the nature of the way we try and do bank qualified financing and the amounts, we'd like to break it into essentially 2 series. So we do one right before the end of the year and one right at the beginning of next year, based on the interest rates and on making sure they're both bank qualified. We'd look to move forward. So we would look at our December 7th meeting to present. And I just want to give folks a heads up that we've talked about this for a long time. Now, these aren't decisions on our shape or what we're doing exactly, but now is the best time to issue that debt in terms of the interest rates that are out there. Though that issuance doesn't mean we can't take advantage of or leverage stimulus dollars down the road. It just does make dollars available for us to move forward on infrastructure investment for those things. The payment on those things, and roughly it will be about $350,000-$60,000 a year to pay off a debt of 2 different $6.5 million debts, one for a fire station, one for roadway, water and sewer infrastructure. The other one will actually be a savings, so a little bit of money toward that. As we talked with the members historically about how we would do that, our roadway and infrastructure borrowing, which essentially connects Pickle Road to Dustin and ultimately Navarre, that and the bike trail that goes with it, that will be paid for out of our gas tax revenue. If you recall, the state increased our gas tax revenue last year. We hadn't budgeted for that revenue. We have about $500,000 in new revenue, and this will take about $350,000 of that. If the members recall, we've discussed that is the way we intended to pay for this infrastructure for many years. That path would use that gas tax revenue as we looked at it. Long term, we would supplant that with revenue from TIF dollars should they become available with investment in that corridor that can continue to make it available. So we're going to go down that path. Now is the right time. This isn't decisions about exactly how we do things, but it is the decision to go forward and make that money available. And we would have that money available for next year. We spend it over a 3-year period to do it. So that's coming up and kind of exciting for us as we looked at it. Obviously, a fire station we've talked about for, I think, at least 7 years with some of us around here. And we're looking at is, again, a 2-step process, beginning with a fire station, keeping our other fire stations as remote, are essentially 2 and 3 as places that we can use as satellites and have available. But we can look to steps that we can take and decide what's the right number do we have long-term, assess it, how we deploy our resources, how we deploy our equipment. It might be at some point after a couple of years of taking a look at it, we decide we need 2 fire stations, depends on where growth is. And there's a couple of ways of doing that. We'll talk about those things when we get into the actual decisions about it, but this is the best time to issue debt based on, I don't think it's ever been this, the price of money's ever been this low in my 45-year career in this business. And we will look to make a presentation to the bond rating agencies in the next week. The way the bond rating agencies are looking at governments these days, they understand COVID, they understand what's going on. Nobody's getting a bond rating, a credit rate increase. Many will get a slight decrease. That's okay. We understand where we are. We know the interest rates that that are available to us, and there's some very, very good interest rates out there available now. And we've done this before with this. Ultimately, it's the same team we've used before for that last issuance we did about 10 and a half years ago. Some of you were around for that. So we're excited about the steps moving forward on that. We'll present that in a couple of weeks. We just want to let the members know this is kind of the culmination of something we've talked about for a long time. It's time to move on it as we go. Other thing that I wanted to bring up on the town center itself, I've had conversations with a number of you saying, boy, what's our hopes and dreams on timeline? We had an extensive conference call today with a group of commercial realtors and developers who are interested in our town center. I do want to underscore, just as Ray and the folks from the chamber were talking about the impact of COVID, nobody is signing deals. There's lots of talk, but the restaurants we're looking for, the retailers aren't signing deals right now. That's just the way it is. We know we want to be prepared in the same way we talked about what we're dealing with the budget and COVID. We are going to be prepared for because when we get a vaccine and people are ready to move, we're going to have our roadway infrastructure plan. We're going to have that engineering done. We'll be ready to move. We have strong interest here, but none of the sort of restaurants we're looking for are ready to sign on the dotted line. They're going to wait to see where things are before they're ready to leap. We do have, and we'll have to talk with members and have to look at some opportunities. We do have opportunities. We have people who want to come in there right now. We have to decide as a community, is that the mix that we're looking for? And we'll float that to members and have some discussions about it in the coming weeks. So I just want to let folks know there is strong interest here. We think we will end up going, the likeliest thing is we will go with residential and Navarre Avenue restaurants first, and some portion of the Navarre Avenue restaurants first, and then have the kind of a phase two, maybe have a three-phase approach. We have a residential, strong interest in residential in both apartments and villas. We have strong interest in Navarre Avenue restaurants and some components of it, but some of the other stuff they're going to wait a year, certainly wait till after we get through the vaccine period and they understand how retail is going to evolve. The other two components of it that are different, office is going to be different for a good while here. We don't see strong demand for offices. We'd had some good conversation with folks interested in some office spaces. Other than medical office, we think it'll be a little while before we fill office. We think most hotel projects are going to take a year or two off as well. So we just have to understand that as we go. We have strong interest, but as we've talked, this is a 40-year decision for Oregon. We don't want to leap into something that is a short-term, boy, we got this, when we want something that can work for this community for a good number of years. So we're going to continue to have those conversations. We'll get some briefings for the members in the coming weeks as we look at options that are available to us. We just wanted you to be aware of where that is. Finally tonight, and I've had conversations with Dennis as council president, as Jim as finance chair about, we've got a COVID season, our budget, how we want to do our hearings this year, what's practical, what's practical for us as we go. As we talked, our budget is really going to be simple this year. It's really going to be we're going to kind of redo the 2020 budget and produce it again. A lot of the same projects. We're going to leave the positions in the budget in the departments that we budgeted for. We're not going to cut them out. We're not automatically going to fill them either. We've been lucky. We've had a fortune, I think, a very good way we worked through it with council historically. We've had the cash flexibility to make changes during a year, and this year we budgeted to spend about 22 million. We think we're going to spend right about 19. I'm hoping it's closer to 18.7. Darlene tells me it's going to be 19. We'll underspend by about $3 million. We know our revenue challenge for the year. That's a cash problem for us as well. But we're doing okay. We're holding the line as we go. So let's see how the COVID world is doing over the next couple of weeks between now and the 7th. Maybe we can get together on the 7th and spread around the room and do one session and see how much more we need after that. Dennis and Jim and I have talked about it. We'll figure that out. Just wanted you to be aware of it. If you've got particular ideas or things on the budget between now and then, most of what we're presenting it's kind of a status quo budget, is what it is. Our bargaining agreements have come in. We're hold the line at zeros through next summer with all our bargaining units, just be in light of the economic conditions where they are. Our healthcare plan that we're negotiating, we are actually going to budget a savings, a reduction in our healthcare expenditures. We think we'll be able to provide the same level of service for a couple $100,000 a year less. We've been working on that one for a while, but we'll be bringing in legislation for that between now and the end of the year. The bids came in good for us, and we've got a consortium we're going to be part of that we think is working well. So, the budget is really kind of a hold the line across the board, and we'll see where revenue is. We are fortunate that we have the flexibility as a city to deal with changes as they come. We have cash available to us so that we can make decisions mid-year if things change, and we'll see where we go. So that just want to let folks know that I'll be talking with Dennis and Jim between now and the 7th to decide, do we do it inside? Do we do it Zoom? Do we, our preference maybe to do something and spread around the council chambers and do that. That might be nice if we can do that, and do a session and see how much more we need. I'll try and be less verbose than usual since it's the same old, same old. We'll take it from there. That's all I had today. Dennis, anything?
Thank you, Mr. Beasley.
Mr. President,
Mayor?
was that all, Mr. Beasley?
That's all I've got.
Oh, that's all. It's hardly enough. No, I did have one other thing, Dennis, that I wanted to share with council, and that would be that is the many different aspects of the job of being mayor. There was something that I actually did last Monday, had a meeting without some of you guys, and that was at the council chambers last Monday at the 16th at 7 p.m., where Marvin Dabish and Lisa Gillis became Mr. and Mrs. Marvin and Lisa Dabish. So Marvin is here celebrating his 1 week anniversary of being married.
Wow.
And that I thought that was worth sharing.
Mr. Dabish, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Marvin.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Lisa's a lucky woman, right?
Or unlucky.
So true, Mayor. So true.
We got to get Marvin to say something because we can see if he's blushing right now.
He turned his camera off.
That could be why the camera is
I
off.
pressed it by accident. I got nothing to say. Thank you.
Congrats, Marvin.
Thank you.
Marvin, were those tears?
Yeah.
Cheers. Cheers.
Off the market.
That he will be the faithful and honor and obey. That's a good word.
All good.
No comment.
All right. Congratulations again, Marvin.
Thank you.
Ms. Purpura.
No report, Mr. President, and congratulations, Marvin.
Thank you.
Mr. Roman.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Reeves.
No report from my standing committee, but I would like to thank Karis for her service to the citizens and us in Oregon, and good luck on your future endeavors. Being out the last couple of weeks, Chief Navarre, I wanted to congratulate you on your victory in the election. Chief Began, I apologize. I couldn't be here the day that you were confirmed, but I would like to congratulate you and welcome as our newly appointed Chief of Police. And I would like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving this week. And please be safe and keep your family safe as well. Thank you.
Thank you,
Terry. I enjoyed working with you.
Excellent. Mr. Seaman.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Beasley, maybe you could get a letter out to give an overview of what you just talked about, like you usually do when it comes budget time.
Will do.
Yeah, you know what I mean, don't you? Yeah.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Those are always very nice.
Well, I drive Sandy nuts with it, but I'll get it done.
Sure. Yeah. And but one thing we got to you talk about is it's a good time to borrow because the money's the interest is exceedingly low. But at the same time, our tax revenues are much lower too. So I mean, it's a tough situation, but you're doing a good job, Mr. Beasley, keeping the expenditures down. That's tremendous. And that's what we need to do. That's good work. And what we'll probably do, we'll be ready to pass the budget the first meeting in January, as per usual.
Well, we passed it the last meeting in December.
In December, that's right. So we'll get, like you said, I think I like that idea, like spreading the council members around the council chambers. I mean, in the council room, the public room, so that we, can maybe meet face to face, but really spread things out though, to be very safe. That's the most important thing, is to be safe. And like he's been talking to me and Mr. Wallensack and the rest of the council members. So I think it can be a condensed format, and we can have it ready for the 21st. As Mr. Safarian indicated, we can have the meetings the 7th and the 21st. We can wrap it up on the 21st. Maybe we'll plan on the 7th. See if we can meet at the regular council meeting and firm everything up for the budget. But before that, to get a letter in reference to the 101, 102 accounts and how you save money from this year's budget and what our anticipations are for 2021. Like you said, there's not a lot of changes, but you just give it to us in a letter format so we can see it, and that'd be great then. And we'll plan on passing everything on the 21st. That's all I have, Mr. President. Any questions?
Mr. President,
Mayor.
and I was gonna say, we had Jim, for your
Yes.
information, everybody, that we plan to use your new iPads and send all the information via email to those, so you would be seeing all this stuff. So when you come to this meeting, it won't be the first time. So you'll in essence be already briefed on it. So we'll try to do as much of that as possible, as early as possible, just to keep it priced. And so if you do have any questions, even before the meeting, you can ask, and some of the things can be taken care of, and it can really go. We're hoping it to go quite smooth.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, good suggestion. Good idea.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman. Mr. Zale, I kind of jumped out of order there. I apologize.
It's Z. It's Z.
The story of your life, Tim. The story of your life.
First of all, congratulations, Marvin. That's great.
Thank you, Tim.
Karis, I wish you good luck. Thank you. I am in favor of
welcome.
the
Thank you.
meetings. I'm in favor of the meetings on the 7th and the 21st. And I really wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Have a great time with your families. Eat lots of turkey.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Zale. And then I'll go to Mr. Davish.
I got no report, but happy Thanksgiving and good luck, Karis, on your future. And that'll be all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davish. Ms. Poliff.
Nothing from my standing committee, but thank you, Karis, for everything that you've done since I've been there. I mean, you've done quite a bit with getting everything connected, and you're really appreciated. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and that's my report.
Thank
right.
you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Poliff. And Mr. Horniak.
Nothing from my standing committee, I guess, just echoing some of the other members. Karis, thank you for your service to the city and all you've contributed. Marvin, congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome to the club.
You're welcome.
And to everybody on the call, I hope everybody has a very happy, very safe Thanksgiving. And I think especially this year in this crazy world we're living in, got a lot of good things to be thankful for, even though it's been probably the weirdest year any of us will ever see in our lifetime. So happy Thanksgiving, safe travels, and safe experiences for everybody out there this week.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Steve.
Mr. Horniak. And on the mayor's suggestion, council, I will move the meetings, our regular meetings for the month of December, to the December 7th and December 21st. So those will act as our two meetings for the month of December. Mr. Beasley will get with Mr. Seaman and I, and we'll probably have to call some sort of meeting here to go over budget. We usually do that before the council meetings. I'm not sure if we'll do that early on the 7th before our regular council meeting or not. But that's something that we will be getting in touch with all the members to let them know when we'll go over that finance committee. And with that, I will also thank Karis for her time with the city. I know that you've helped us here at the city council transition into a paperless council and help with you, Alex, and Tina with getting these meetings delivered to the public via Zoom and then streaming through the YouTube channel. Thank you so much. I think that's great for our community that they have the access to our city government, and you helped establish that. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks. And with that, I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President.
Mr. Seaman.
Yes, and I would like to congratulate Marvin and Lisa also, but I will say another one has bit the dust. I move that we adjourn.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Seaman. Second by Mr. Reeves. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, meeting is adjourned.
Thanks all.
Not everybody.